So, recently, the new Rocketman movie released May 31st, which followed the life of Elton John, also known as Reginald Kenneth Dwight.
Reggie!
And when I went to see this, I thought it was hilariously ironic that the somewhat R-rated life of a gay musician debuted in a movie theater filled to the brim with baby boomers. I think I was the only person not a baby boomer, besides the actual baby sitting behind me. But getting into the actual movie, I must say right away I thought it was phenomenal, enjoyable, and very difficult to get bored or zone off during. There was always something important or entertaining going on that was also vital to the life of Elton John's story. And that's something I really did like about the movie, the pace of it. The pace was perfect. I didn't feel like there was a throwaway scene or a wasted moment that should have been cut out. It didn't drag along or execute any overly complicated plot points. And I feel like part of this was because it was a musical. I didn't know that it was going to be shot as a musical, and I honestly didn't go in with any expectations other than thinking, okay, this might look a little bit like Bohemian Rhapsody because it's the same director, but even with that said, they're still astonishingly different movies. I was actually thinking of making a comparison video between the two, but I realized that it would be incredibly difficult because of how different they are. But the musical component actually helped move Elton John's life story along with an entertaining ease. It would have been a completely different movie if they tried to do like a documentary-style filming of his concerts, but with the musical component, they had a lot more creative freedom and it just looked a lot better. For example, Elton John is performing at a pub as a child, and halfway during the sequence he becomes the older version of himself in the song Saturday Night. And looking at the writing process, there totally could have been a half-revised, wishy-washy scene about his teenage years and being awkward around girls and secretly into guys, or a scene at school or something to show that he grew up. But I'm happy that there wasn't any explanatory bullshit like that. It cut right to the chase mid-song and led us through what they wanted to show us, to what they felt was more important about his life, to show the audience. The style of filming was kind of hard to put my finger on at first, because some of the elements are very real and appears to be somewhat realism, but then it would pull a 180 and lean more towards formalism, but I think the formalism improved the film when it was used. So to translate, the realism was like when he was in the house constructing Your Song on the piano. There aren't any technical changes that were too extreme during this part, especially when he was in the living room. But then the scene where he had his suicide attempt, which was much more dramatic and intense in his life, this would be brought forward with elusive formalist elements. So, for instance, he was seeing a vision of his younger self playing the piano at the bottom of the pool after he jumped. It was staring back at him. Reality was twisted and exaggerated to showcase a more exaggerated moment in his life. So that's when the formalist elements worked to the advantage of the film. So I thought the overall message of the movie was a lot more than just love yourself. Loving yourself properly isn't just a button that you can click, and this movie really emphasized that. What I personally got out of this film was that the road to loving yourself isn't easy, but it's worth the journey. And I mean, seeing Elton John had it absolutely made. He had a shit ton of money, parties, concerts, you name it. But the film showed that he used to be wide-eyed and happy when he first discovered music and made friends to perform and love music with. Before his life was overwhelmed with the excess, before he lost his sense of identity and couldn't love what wasn't there. It's hard to know who you really are when the world has pretty much already told you. So one of my favorite things about this movie was watching the story behind how these songs were put together, and Elton's true feelings behind the songs. There was a scene where he was constructing Your Song on the piano, and now every time I listen to Your Song, it reminds me of that moment in the movie. And also, oh my goodness, Taron Egerton's voice. He actually sang every song in this movie, which just blows my mind. And not to mention, he absolutely hit it out of the ballpark, no pun intended. But it added so much genuineness and real emotion to the songs than if it were just Elton's real audio added over the scene, or however the audio magic happened in Bohemian Rhapsody. My favorite thing ever was hearing my old relatives after they saw Bohemian Rhapsody say things like, Oh wow, that Rami Malek has an amazing singing voice. He sounded just like Queen. Like, wait, did you not know that was not him singing?
It was movie magic, Aunt Carol.
But yeah, I'd say the genuine vocal ability of Taron Egerton was something that really added to this movie. The only downside to this movie that I can really point out, though, is the predictability of some of the emotional scenes. I feel like a few of the moments at the AA meetings could have been written a bit differently, but then again, I am a film YouTuber with exactly 4 subscribers, so there is a slight disparity there. And honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of Elton John before this film. I only knew a couple of songs that my mom knew and played sometimes, but after watching this, it offered a new playlist of songs to listen to and an understanding of America's musical history. And also definitely many newly converted Elton John fans in the younger age range. So if you haven't seen it already, it's definitely one to watch, especially in the sense that it does tell a lot about America's history, along with Elton John's history. So let me know what you thought about this movie if you've seen it, and thank you for watching.
Hey, I want to be famous.